Hey everyone, welcome back to the Investor's Guide to Joy. My name is Paul Graham, and today I'm going to talk with Colin Herdman specifically around his entrepreneurial journey and how he's working with entrepreneurs to grow, really their connection base and really, my opinion, like the foundation, if not the acceleration of their business, specifically using LinkedIn. I think oftentimes we view LinkedIn as just the way to get that next job or kind of a sales funnel, right? But really, there's a broader piece to help educate and inform people to really just give a different perspective or different nugget, or maybe even make some kind of business change. Maybe they buy your product as well, right? But there's a holistic component to it. So I'm glad to have you on. I'm excited to chat more with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Paul. I'm excited as well.
Yeah. So LinkedIn seems to be kind of like the coming back sort of individual, in my opinion, amid the socials, as the TikTokification of everything has, kind of changed, really just shorts on, Instagram and Facebook and things like that. But LinkedIn, I mean, is the dedicated kind of like educational, professional, type of platform, right? Where people can, go and do, as well as can certainly filter, right? I go on Facebook, I can't really tell where people work and they darn don't update it. So, it's kind of pointless in some way from, a funnel. So I wanted to first ask, from your perspective, we often view social media as all these different, companies, again, the Facebook, Instagram, TikToks of the world. Like, is LinkedIn a, social network? And like, how have you seen it be defined as that or kind of grow with it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Absolutely, LinkedIn is a social network. It's still about people. It's still about building relationships. It's about being authentic and genuine. But the beauty of LinkedIn is that it's also a business social network. People are there to hire. People are there to look for jobs. People are there to make connections and to buy and sell. So that's really the beauty, I think, of LinkedIn is that it's a social network that's built around business. And the way that I approach it and the way that I approach it for my clients is very much a way to generate a larger network and to
Mhm.
build leads and sales revenue off of your activities on LinkedIn.
Yeah, certainly. I guess just for context, like what is kind of the business that you have?
Yeah. So, and maybe I'll do a quick history of like kind of how I got here. And so, back in 2007, I started Monkey Island Ventures with two buddies of mine. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old, and Monkey Island's the name of a park we used to play at when we were kids. Well, in 2007, we started to build software as a service, some SaaS companies. And over the course of the last, 15 years, 16 years, we've built, probably a dozen SaaS products. Most of them crashed and burned. So we learned a lot of hard lessons. But, we've also built a couple of service-based businesses that employ around 40 people here in Minneapolis. And, through a lot of the digital marketing that we've done, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time the last 5 years is with cold email and then LinkedIn automation. Well, about 6 months ago, I went to my business partners and said, I think I can build a real business off of the LinkedIn automation and the process that I'd been built out. And that's really how Rainmaker was born, was through my own ability to drive leads and sales through my LinkedIn automation activities. And now I'm offering that as really kind of a white glove service with Rainmaker. And so what I love about the model is the transparency. Everything that we talk about today in how I'm using LinkedIn, anyone can do that manually. So all of your listeners could immediately go and start applying these different campaign strategies on LinkedIn themselves. Really, people are hiring me and Rainmaker for my strategy, which I'm happy to give for free, like I'm doing now on this podcast. And automation, really saving them time, really automating LinkedIn best practices. And the one thing I want your audience to keep in mind is that automation and spam are not synonymous. Those are not synonyms. So if you're doing automation correctly, you're doing it in a way that is still being authentic and is really bringing, an educational mindset to the way that you approach LinkedIn. So I'd be happy to kind of dive into the three areas around philosophy, audience building, and campaigns. And that's kind of the framework that I use when I think about LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure. So how are then you thinking on, posting versus, messaging? Is there a percentage of each where you're like, yeah, just between posting and messaging, right? Are both required or what is that like?
Yeah. So, honestly, the way that I think about LinkedIn, and that's a great question. I think about LinkedIn philosophically that you have to be authentic. So
Mhm.
I have to be authentic to Colin and communicate in the way that I naturally communicate, and be a conversational tone is the best tone to have on LinkedIn. And then I need to come with an education mindset. Nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn, but I think virtually everyone's willing to be educated on LinkedIn. And then there's the final piece then, which is I put a lot of pressure on myself. I put pressure on you for what you're trying to grow. Any other entrepreneur, salesperson, or marketing person, which is you have to explicitly know what it is that your audience wants to learn from you. And if you can crack that nut, then I think any B2B business could do really, really well using LinkedIn to drive leads and sales. So that's really how I think about LinkedIn from a philosophical perspective, is being authentic, bringing an education mindset, and knowing explicitly what your audience wants to learn from you and what you can teach. So that's kind of that philosophical layer. Underneath that is the audience layer and building out audiences. And I use Sales Navigator to build out the vast majority of the audiences for myself and my clients. It's a great tool. It's like $100 a month through LinkedIn. If a client doesn't have Sales Navigator, I let them use, I can use mine for free. But there's also a couple of ways that I've been thinking about building audiences with LinkedIn, but starting to identify intent. So here's a couple of examples. So one would be LinkedIn events. If a direct competitor of yours is putting on a LinkedIn event around a specific topic, if you go and attend that event, you can also see everyone else that's attending that event. And you could actually start to build an audience then out of that. So, if somebody was putting on a LinkedIn, growth event, I could go and attend it. I could say, okay, I want to pull out all the founders in Minnesota, and I could actually build an audience out of that, knowing that these founders were already attending an event around how to grow on LinkedIn. Therefore, they'd probably be interested in me and in Rainmaker, right? So that's one way to kind of shortcut an audience. Another would be using a person as a proxy. So there's a woman named Brenda on LinkedIn. She has like 70,000 followers. She does a really good job of talking about how to grow on LinkedIn around your posts and your profile and all of that. Well, I reached out to connect with her. She connected back with me. So now we're first connections. Well, I can use her as a proxy in Sales Navigator. And I just say, okay, here's Brenda. I want to see everyone that's a first connection to her, but is a second connection to me, that is also a founder and in Minnesota, right? And I could extrapolate out an audience then and start going after these founders who are following her, most likely because they want to learn from her on how to grow on LinkedIn, which again would make them a good candidate for Rainmaker. So those are some ways I'm thinking about audience. And then really the last kind of area, we've talked about philosophy, we've talked about audience. The last area is really strategies and tactics, or the different kind of campaigns that you can run. So, for me and really all of my clients, after we create the audience, we're reaching out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. So it's 125 people a week, 500 people a month. And I'm seeing anywhere from about a 15 to a 45% connection rate back. So that's what you could probably expect. We're not sending out connection messages. We're just reaching out to connect without a connection message. If you're doing this all manually and you want to put in a message, you can certainly do that. It's just you want to be very, very specific if you want to use messages, because if you don't, it starts to come across as kind of canned or spammy. So, and then for myself and a lot of clients, we'll bolt on like a message campaign. And I'll use a quick example here. One of my clients owns a law firm and he wants to break into the blockchain industry. And so his account is connecting with a bunch of blockchain founders. Well, when he sends out his message after they connect, it would be something to the effect of like, hi, Paul, I'm really passionate about the blockchain industry. I know you are as well. Look forward to seeing your content, right? Something like that. So I would encourage everyone, don't try and sell anything. You don't even need to try and help them. In that first message after someone connects with you, just thank them authentically for that connection. If they don't reply, then maybe a week later, follow up. And again, with this lawyer, he says something to the effect of, hi, Paul, I find myself more and more writing about the intersection of law and blockchain, and I'm wondering if there's any topics you'd like me to write about. Well, that is a really important question, because going back to the LinkedIn philosophy, my client knows the blockchain founders have a lot of problems navigating the US government with rules and regulations and law. And so that question really opens up a dialogue where a lot of times he'll get a response from a founder saying, "Oh, could you write about this topic?" Or, "Do you have any insight on this specific law?" Right? He's starting to get questions back to him where he's already positioning himself as a thought leader. He's starting to build a relationship with these founders. He's going in with a giving mindset of like trying to help them. And he's been getting phenomenal response, has closed clients off of that. So I would just encourage your audience to think about, kind of having this go-giver mindset. How can I help my audience? And what are the pains and the obstacles that they're trying to overcome that I can help them with, right? So you could respond back with a question like this lawyer did. You could respond back with a white paper that you wrote or something you might have posted on your website, or maybe there's a third-party article that you want to share, or maybe there's an event you're hosting that you would want to invite them to. But don't try and sell. Try and educate, try and figure out what it is they want to learn from you, because once that happens, you're starting to build a real relationship, and it's something that is truly scalable.
Yeah, certainly. What is the kind of like impact capability for it? So oftentimes when we think about, building something new, we think it's either going to take forever, and so we never want to start, right? Or we expect like immediate results. So, for those who are looking to leverage like or just like LinkedIn, profiles for their business, like what kind of timeline of impact essentially can they, really see?
Yeah. Well, if you start following 25 people a day, Monday through Friday, their normal working hours, you could expect to get probably, like I said, 15 to 45% of those people connecting back to you. It just really depends on, the number of mutual connections that you have with people. That's the number one reason why people will or won't connect back. Or if you're in the same industry or industries, that's another reason. Make sure your profile is built out well and it's as representative of you and reflects well on who you are. But connections, that happens immediately. Like I guarantee if you just start doing that, you will get people connecting back. Your ideal client profiles and these audiences will start connecting back. And then it's what's the value you can start adding to them. And so through these messages, that's one way of adding value. One thing that's worked incredibly well for me is I started doing LinkedIn live streams. And these LinkedIn live streams where I'm teaching what I know about LinkedIn to discrete groups, I'm getting anywhere from 10 to 25 people a week signing up for the live stream that I'm doing. So, those LinkedIn live streams are really a phenomenal way, I think, for any business to start to showcase what they know and to start getting people in the pipeline. And I'd be happy to share with you a PDF, a one-page PDF. I built out my entire process for how I do live streams, and anybody follow this process. Anyone in your audience could go ahead and follow the process. I'm automating out the way that I'm building my audience. I'm automating out after I create the live stream, I'm automating out the LinkedIn event invites to the attendees or to people I want to attend. But you can do that all manually. And then the beauty of these live streams, or really any event, but we'll use live streams as the event, a specific event as an example, is that if you're putting out this live stream event on LinkedIn and you start sending invites out to these discrete audiences that you want to invite to it, if no one's signing up, then your audience or your topic or both are off. But if you start getting people to click the attend button, then you're onto something. And the wonderful thing about these events is that when it's over, I follow up with each attendee that clicked the attend button, and I'll say something to the effect of, "Hi, Paul, thanks again for registering for the LinkedIn live stream that I led this morning. Not sure if you were able to make it or not, but in case you missed it, here's a link to the recording." And then I'll link back to the event, the live stream event. And so now the recording is saved there on LinkedIn. And then underneath that, I'll say, if you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time convenient for you here. And I'll give them my Calendly link. Okay. And I'm booking one-on-one meetings then with some of the attendees that want to continue the conversation. If you just look at what I've just done I've identified an audience, I've reached out and made first connections with that audience. I've created a live stream dedicated to educating that audience on something that I know. I've gotten them to click the attend button, and after the event's over, I'm sending them my Calendly link. That's not a ton of work. Those steps, what I said, is very repeatable. I just set up another live stream earlier today, and it probably took me 10 minutes to set the whole thing up. And I'm using the same content essentially every single week, even though it's marketed to these different groups that I want to go after. I'm getting, like I said, 10 to 25 people a week signing up. And when I send that Calendly link, it doesn't feel spammy. It doesn't feel salesy. It doesn't feel icky to the person I'm sending it to, or from my vantage point, it feels like a good next step. So if I were to recommend any business adopt a strategy, I would say that's probably the number one strategy that I would recommend almost over anything else. And one of my companies is a digital marketing company that does, SEO and paid advertising and a lot of things like that. I think really any business should look at this and having it be one of the first things that they do.
Are you also using SEO with these?
No,
Okay.
no,
To
no,
know for those that are doing it as well. Like, are you then saying, hey, this is best, like you should only do this essentially, or this is
no.
just, if you only do one of them, do.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend these live streams because, like I said, you're able to test audiences and topics. And if you're not getting people to click the attend button, then you're off. But if you get people to click the attend button, as soon as someone clicks the attend button, you know who they are. You know that they're saying to you, I trust Colin, I trust Rainmaker, I want to learn from you. Like that's a lot of kind of emotional things that are happening in a really short period of time. And if you look at the difficulty of someone that's already in LinkedIn, they're already in the platform, they see an invite from you, it's really easy for them just to click the attend button. It's easier than giving your email to some company to get on their e-newsletter list, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a really simple step for somebody to take.
How have you then like approached when to do the LinkedIn lives, like time of the week or time of day? Certainly it could depend on, the industry of sorts, but there's got to be
Experiment.
some sort of hack, especially as we've gone like back into office type roles. It's no
Yep.
longer, anytime you're at your desk kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to experiment. One of the things. So EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System Traction. It's a kind of it's a business operating system that a lot of small, medium-sized businesses use, and there's people that'll help you implement it called EOS implementers, and they typically meet every quarter with their clients. So I'm doing a live stream for that audience next week, knowing that we'll still be in August, but I probably wouldn't send something to them, kind of late September because I know they're prepping for their quarterlies that'll happen, in September, early
For
October,
sure.
right? So that's an example of like, okay, I'm probably not going to target them. Maybe I'll just target founders or business coaches or sales teams, in late September, early October. And then days of the week and times, you just got to play around with it and just experiment and yeah, and just see what works.
Yeah. Have you then seen a shift for more like lunchtime type meetings than necessarily like evening type ones?
Yeah, I don't do anything evening really, and part of it is probably just my own personal preference, and I also have two young kids. So early mornings, I'll do I'm in Central Time like 7:30, 8:30, and then I have tried a few like 11 a.m. and noon, and I haven't seen like a huge discrepancy with that in terms of like one working way better than another. So yeah, I would say just test and see.
What does like ongoing, engagement, connection, like nurturing look like? So you can maybe have a conversation, today with someone, it may not be the best fit with what you have, or maybe again, it's not even about what you have. It's just, hey, if you want to connect on blockchain, like let me know. It'd be good to, connect with you. What is that like ongoing nurturing approach, like is what kind of method to the madness is there? Is it, once a year reaching back out to people, or what's the
Yeah.
best
Yeah,
cadence?
that's the beauty, I think, of using, different campaign strategies on LinkedIn. And I can share with you on rainmakergrows.com website, one of the pages that I created was a campaigns page, and it lists like 12 different campaign types that your audience could really contemplate and think about. 11 out of those 12 campaign types, you don't need me or Rainmaker. They're just functions within LinkedIn that people
Mhm.
should be aware of. But, like for me, I also use a CRM. And so I'm keeping track of more of like real prospects and leads in that. And
Sure.
then outside of LinkedIn, I'm just following up with them through LinkedIn or through email, depending on how we're communicating. One of the cool things, like if you're messaging someone, with an actual first degree message, once every 3 months or 6 months on LinkedIn. Well, if you create a live stream around a specific topic and that person is included in one of those audiences, well, they're going to get included in your event invite right? And so they're going to get a nice soft alert in their LinkedIn account that'll say, "Oh, Colin has invited you to this live stream event," right? And so it's not me being right in their face with a first degree message, which
Mhm.
I could do, once every 3 months or 6 months. Now they're getting a softer touch of ways that they could learn again from me. And so I think that's one of the things, even for me, the first deck that I created and that I've been using the last 4 months almost every week is learn how to grow your network, leads, and sales using LinkedIn. And the live streams has been so successful for me, and some of my clients are adopting them now, that I started creating a deck, and I'm going to get into real detail on how to do these LinkedIn live streams, and I'm going to actually live stream how to do LinkedIn live streams, right? And so one of the things I'll be able to do then is reach out to all these audiences that I have been reaching out to in the past about this general live stream about growing on LinkedIn, with a very specific live stream on how to do LinkedIn live streams, right? So I think your audience, as you start to dip your toe in the water and start to get comfortable with different ways of leveraging LinkedIn, then you'll also find, I think, other opportunities like where you could teach what it is that you know.
Yeah, sure. It's, I had a kind of a thought of like LinkedIn's the one you can't necessarily like hide behind, right? So if I'm in a W-2 role, I'm, in corporate America of sorts, I can't hide behind my, Facebook profile, if you will, if I was, sharing for my digital marketing firm on the side or something like that. So
Yeah.
certainly, LinkedIn type marketing would definitely be recommended for, those that can, go out and be, fruitful with it. But that doesn't mean, the messaging can't be, right? Like you could still message, it's just more that, public type stuff. And I say that from, my own experience of your, actual employer agreements. And if you can have like a job or a business with the company while you're, still employed, because I've had some, working agreements that say, hey, if you have another job, like, it's immediate termination potential type stuff, right? Those who are, entrepreneur type thing, they're already out, at about growing their business, within LinkedIn. Certainly you can like, do it yourself, but there's been a fascinating thing that I've then recognized on this idea of going from, me to we, right? And so transitioning from, hey, oh, cool, here are the strategies. Thanks so much, Colin, da da da. And, we can link some of the stuff here in the show notes. But it's, being able to say, hey, what are the best things? What have you seen? And like go do it such that I can do other things. What have you really found like entrepreneurs in terms of like, I'm almost thinking like the mindset objection to it, right? Because from my perspective, it's not a cost thing. Like most things aren't a cost thing. It's just they're not seeing like the value, and or they may not define the value like themselves because they may not see themselves as valuable. And so even if the, return on investments there, it's like, whoa, I've never spent, that much on myself, right? And that, they're kind of hesitant to spend it on their business, right? Business is a reflection of, our personalities. So what have you seen from, a mindset perspective from different business owners you talk to in terms of, automation, or in terms of like spending to kind of go to the me to we sort of like philosophy?
Yeah. So, I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, whether it's a full-time gig or, I've seen lots and lots of kind of aspiring entrepreneurs where they're listing their side gigs, within their profiles as well. And, whether or not, that, I think they're probably
Sure.
not doing that unless it's kosher with their employer. But, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's really thinking about, what is it that I can contribute to the kind of the LinkedIn ecosystem? I think that's
Mhm.
really that approach you want to have. And so, one of the great ways of kind of, thinking about more of that we mindset is, thinking about people that, complement what it is that you do, where you could benefit from having those shared audiences learn from one or the other or both, depending on how you want to set that content up. So I think, that's one of the great things about LinkedIn, and a really wonderful way to bring, others into the fold is by, partnering up on events, calling people out within posts, recognizing people for the things that they do. Those are just great ways of building, I think, kind of your persona in a real authentic, genuine way that leverages the social aspect of what makes LinkedIn really a wonderful social network.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. what is then the potential transferability between, LinkedIn and Facebook? Like, are you seeing people also do kind of like Facebook lives of sorts if they have similar type, maybe not connections, but, there's different like mastermind groups or investor groups or things like
Sure.
that, right? So is
Yep.
that more like call to webinar sort of thing, or what have you heard of people use, or what have you maybe used yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I'm explicitly just on LinkedIn. So I'm not like a huge social media guy. Like I never have gotten like really heavy into any of the social networks. I think for me with LinkedIn, I want to build relationships. I want to, help people out, but I also want to generate leads and revenue
Mhm.
from some of the time that I'm spending on LinkedIn. And I've found myself spending a lot more time really providing education through these LinkedIn live streams and less time me just trying to post every day and looking at how many comments or likes I get. So I think I'm adding more value to the LinkedIn platform and kind of the network with the education that I'm providing. One of the tool that I use for doing the live stream is called StreamYard, and it's
Okay.
like $25 a month. It's a great product. Again, I'm only streaming to LinkedIn, but you could set up a live stream to YouTube and Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn and have that stream going out to all those platforms simultaneously. So if there are people out there that have an audience, on Facebook or on Insta and on LinkedIn or whatever, you could create a one kind of live stream event and have that go out to all those platforms at the same time through
Sure.
StreamYard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to link some of the guides and PDFs you mentioned. So, I mean, definitely, yeah, going me to we type of, philosophy, automation, growth, intention are, important aspects as we think about, this concept of like, guide to joy. How do you view like I guess what you're doing in terms of like your own joy as well as like other people, like you're being able to either create their own joy or create a situation where they can have their own joy? Like, have you
Yeah.
seen your service really help people?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, when people talk about creative endeavors, a lot of times they think about like art, they think about music. But for me, one of the things that I've realized being an entrepreneur my entire life is that being an entrepreneur is an innately creative endeavor. And I want to help as many entrepreneurs and founders succeed as I can. And the world needs more entrepreneurs. We need more creativity. And if I'm able to help entrepreneurs on their journey and helping them succeed, then that gives me just a ton of fulfillment and joy, really. So I
Yeah.
love hearing on podcasts like you're doing here, Paul, and just sharing what I know. If somebody goes to rainmakergrowth.com and clicks on the free consultation, you're booking a one-on-one with me. And I'm happy to talk about entrepreneurship or LinkedIn strategy to anybody that wants to schedule time with me. So, one thing I think can be really intimidating is just getting started. And a saying that I made up, years ago is, everybody is making up everything all the time. And I don't care if you're Tim Cook at Apple or it's you and me on this podcast. We're all human. We're all making up stuff. We're trying to do the best we can. And so, what I would just say to anybody listening to this, if you're an existing entrepreneur, keep going. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, get started. And there's all kinds of content out there to help you understand how to get started. But the biggest thing is, at some point you have to actually, the rubber needs to hit the road and you have to actually just get out there and start building. But just know you can do it.
Yeah, you bet. Is that also, or I guess, well, I mean, maybe not lead, but as we think about, the guide to joy of actually like putting kind of a mindset mantra quote, like something like that, like, is that sort of a similar sentiment you'd put in, or what would that
Yeah.
be kind of your like signature?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I actually had that, on my LinkedIn profile for a while, kind of, yeah,
Oh,
everybody's making up everything all the time. Like, I just want people to realize that, it's just kind of this constant chaos that we're living in and not to be, fearful to, it's a hard, scary endeavor to try anything new. And every entrepreneur, I don't care who you are, questions themselves and has to kind of push through that and just do it. And so yeah, for me, if you know that everybody else is kind of making it up as they're doing it, then I think it gives you a lot more freedom in your own mind to say, I can do this too. I'm just like everybody else. And, I'm going to just put my best foot forward and try and do the best job that I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing insights specifically around LinkedIn and just business growth and mindset, Colin. Always enjoy talking to you, and, we'll see you on LinkedIn, right?
Absolutely. I'm there, and reach out to me there or through the rainmakergirls.com site. Would be happy to chat with anybody.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Paul.
If something resonated with you today, share it with a friend. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, leave a 5-star review. It's one of the best ways that I can know what and how I'm doing is being beneficial to you and your life as a listener. Thanks for joining. We'll see you on next episode.